All right. Well, I'm excited. We get to talk through some more bike packing and some more adventures with Carlos and Graham. And today we're going to be jumping into, now it's got an alternative name, but I'm going to go with the YouTube name here that Graham put out there. It was the Bikepacking Tour of Florida's Historic Coast. But there is an alternative name. What is that name, Graham?
It was like beach blanket, bike bingos,
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Sounded like fun. And I think that's how Carlos got roped in, right? Carlos, you
Yeah.
wanted the bingo and the beach blankets.
Pretty much. I mean, I got roped in for a couple of reasons. One was, of course, Graham's birthday,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
which
My birthday.
which nobody wants to talk about. No, nobody. He doesn't want to talk about it. But that was. I was like, I saw it was very close on the calendar, and I'm like, how can I tell him no? His birthday's
Right.
coming up.
I mean, it's my birthday,
It was a birthday ride.
apparently. Yeah,
And
it
it was
ended up being
magical.
that.
There was a bridge crossing or kind of bridge crossing involved. There was good food,
Yeah.
some drones, and all that stuff. And so I want to jump in. And, I think there's a lot of, when we think about St. Augustine, and that's kind of where I'm located in St. Augustine, I love it. It's a beautiful city and a lot of history here. But this is what was kind of like a little bit of a dream one for me because we got to explore some areas that I hadn't explored yet, me personally. And it was cool to be able to have Carlos, you come along as well, because I know you've got a lot of routes starting in this area, a lot of things cutting through here. And then Graham, obviously, just being the organized and the one who captures all the video, which again, I'm grateful for because it's beautiful drone work on this trip. But let's just kind of walk through the trip itself. I mean, we started off at kind of a nice little poolside little
Your
thing
back
there.
door.
Yeah, my back door of my subdivision there here in St. Augustine, and then we just headed west. And once we kind of got out past I-95 and kind of got onto the trail, that's kind of where the fun stuff began. Now we got to see some critters out there. There was what was that bird, Carlos? There was a bird that you saw that we pulled over. There was some bird was out there flying. I forgot the name of it, but we saw a lot of those flying out in the fields there as we were
Yeah.
going along as well.
Once we turned away from the bike path and we started cutting across, the split tail kites were out there hunting for flies and lizards, and then there was a whole mess of them. I'm actually surprised we couldn't see them on the drone video because where we were riding, I mean, they were everywhere.
They were
It was
everywhere.
quite the
Well,
sight.
the drone scares away the birds. That's why the birders hate me. Or you're a birder, or what do they call birders? What's the technical term for?
Yeah, what is a technical term for a birder? Bird lovers? I'm sure there's a term for it.
Yeah, I forget. But
And then
I scared the beautiful birds away with the buzzing.
we got to see some wonderful bovine, some cattle. And it was cool because Carlos, I had a good time because it was like being on National Geographic with Carlos here with his camera, getting some great shots and some photos along the way. And it was kind of just a good chill sort of thing, which I know I really enjoyed. But I know, we made our way through over to Flagler Estates, kind of north side, and hit the world famous Buzzmart, right? And I guess for me, I don't know about you guys, but when I got off, I just had like this swarm around me, swarm of just gnats, bugs, whatever else. But I guess it's just part of it. And so you walk in there, and it's almost like you just have this cloud
It's
forming
like pig
around
pen.
your head. Yeah, just cloud forming around your head, but it was good. It was cool. We got to cool off a little bit and some fun stuff there. But I guess if we're talking about Buzzmart, I mean, as far as it comparing to a Circle K, I think it's unique because it's kind of like a one-off. You don't see many of those. And I think someone once said when I was going to that area, Buzzmart is the largest employer for Flagler Estates, perhaps, maybe. I'm not
You
sure.
said that.
I said that. So well, somebody said that.
Yeah,
I don't remember who said
that's
that.
not very nice, Billy.
I'm just saying, like, I think that's where a lot of people go. So
Well,
it
and you
was,
skipped that whole part before. Like when we were basically riding Kings Road for
yeah,
like 10 miles. We went through the Kings Road cut through and Ashley Street into Buzzmart. Those are all Kings Road like trademark stops. I mean, if you're doing Kings Road, you get to Buzzmart, you're on the cusp of greatness. You're almost there. And
right.
if the sun's still up, you're really moving. But Buzzmart
Even
usually is in the
amazing.
dark.
Yeah. Well, think about Kings Road. I know I've got a buddy I'm trying to bring down for this up and coming one in October. So, which kind of makes me ask the question. And Carlos, I know you know the answer, so I'm going to ask you. But at one point in time, did Kings Road? I mean, it would alternate, right? Like you would start East Coast, go to West Coast, then West Coast to East Coast, or was it always? So, like, it looks like you've made the change to go from West to East. Is that correct? Is that kind of what you're staying with mainly now?
I decided that it was better to just keep it west to east because I thought Flagler Beach was a great finish. And it really came about once we kind of uncovered that really great start location from the water. I mean, it's hard to find a dirt start location in the water in Florida that's not like beach sand. So
Right.
once we found that start location, I just thought it's much better to finish in Flagler Beach where you can go get food and a drink right after you're
Right.
done versus finishing in the middle of nowhere, which is what would happen if you finish the other way. You'd have to ride an additional 5 or 6 miles if you didn't have anybody there for you before
Right.
you
Oh,
could
that's
get
true.
anything. So once we kind of found that ideal start location, it just made more sense to me in terms of the feeling of your triumph. Like I just conquered. I just made it across the state. It just feels like it's time to party if you got the energy for it. Or if you're in the
Right.
middle of nowhere and you're like kind of taking care of yourself and you have to figure out how to get home and you're that seems like a terrible finish.
Yeah.
Whereas if you finish at the pier, you might have people cheering you on that you don't even know. They just might see you roll in and like kind of
Right.
get festive with you versus there's not going to be anybody out there if you don't have somebody out there for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because it would be almost there. It'd have to be a second finish. You get to the end point, dip your wheel in the water, and it's like, okay, now I got to ride into
Yeah,
town.
it's like fetching the Port of Ives, like, you're in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've come across that bridge a couple of times to finish Kings Road in the dark, and you can see the Flagler Beach Pier from a couple of miles away. There's just this radiant light, and it says Flagler Beach on the pier. It's I don't know, the energy of that finish. I mean, I'm with you, Carlos. I finished it twice now at the pier, and I finished it the other way too. And there's something really like emotional, special about coming into the pier. And there's always people there, like welcoming you. You go down to the beach, or some people don't, but you go down to the beach and put dip your wheel into the ocean. It's really special. It's something I'll never forget for sure. It's a terrific memory for me.
Yeah, and that
Heavy
was cool
biking.
about this trip. At least we got some of those miles in,
Yeah.
which was cool. And I know for those that are watching, listening, if you haven't signed up, go sign up. Single Track Samurai. You can go to his website there and get signed up for that because it's going to be a great event. It's fun. You can go, all out as fast as you want, or you can go party pace. It's kind of your own thing, which is kind of cool, which is what I like about what Carlos puts on. And he kind of really, his events speak to a lot of different groups. If you're racing hard or if you're just kind of chilling and going, either way, you're going to have a great time. But it is something to accomplish that across the state of Florida. It's always a good feeling. You're like, yeah, I did this. And then, so yeah, we got to be on part of that, which was exciting. The world famous kind of cut through up to Buzzmart there. And, I think, Graham, what was after that? So after Buzzmart, we hit County Road 13, right? And then we
And
hang a
Brick
right,
Road,
the Brick Road.
like that's a huge deal. And I'm usually not there in the daylight. So it's nice to ride Brick Road, with some sun because, that's late in the ride. And I've yet to finish Kings Road and it's hard to do because that time of year, the sun goes down at what, 6 o'clock.
Sounds like
So
you're not trying hard enough. I don't
I
know.
tried really hard. I
Just
did. I'm
kidding.
still dark. I had a bear come like run across my front wheel last year in the middle of the dark, and I had light was barely working. I thought it was a wolf,
Oh my
the
goodness.
skunk ape ran across. Like I just saw something black come jetting across from my wheel, and my buddy Lambert thought I was hallucinating. He was like, "No, man, it was a wolf." Because
It
apparently
was
there's
a wolf.
little bears out there, so a bear came.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that area, which is kind of interesting. I mean, there's, timber out there, there's a
yeah.
hunting land. So it's a lot of wide open area, which is kind of cool. And I know the last Kings Road, because I saw the video. I mean, yeah, there's wildlife out there. So probably a bear, black bear, which is
Yeah, definitely.
common to see in Florida. But I think on this trip, which was unique, we saw some other wildlife out there under the one shade
The
tree, I think
rooster
that we
people.
found. Yeah, so let's kind of dive into that a little bit. I know, well, see it on the video, but living that in person, it was almost like to me, it was like it was scripted. I know Carlos and I had gone up there. We were waiting. You were coming back up after doing whatever, and then we're sitting in there's one shade tree, and this vehicle rolls up, and I don't know, Graham, how would you explain that whole scene? Like, who were these people? Where did
They're
they
just
come
some
from?
locals, man. This is their territory. They're
Yeah,
on their way to feed their pet alligators.
yeah,
They're just checking us out.
pet alligators, man. That was a quite the experience, but it was kind of cool. I mean, you get to
Yeah,
chat
they're
it up
being
with some
friendly.
locals there, a holiday. So it was cool to kind of see that. And then I know people always say that when you're biking, like, "Well, how far are you going?" And it's like, "Oh my goodness, I wouldn't even drive that far." And yeah, but it was just we're out there having a good time, and, like, out of nowhere, these people roll up. But Brick Road is cool. I mean, we got to see bricks, so there was sand, but it wasn't, like, terrible, and of course, I think some of the rain had helped kinda make it, bearable, but I know there's been other times where that's not been the case. And Carlos, I'm sure you probably check sand conditions. I don't know if you've automated that or if you got, like, boots on the ground, but I know, like, the sand can get kinda tricky out there.
For sure, we usually for Kings Road, we just go out about a week or a few days ahead of time and see what it looks like just so we can give folks the news. Because I mean, no matter what we're going, so it's either gonna be
Yeah,
really good or it's gonna be not so good, but things change so quick. I mean, for last year's Kings Road, when I went, it was fine, it was perfect, but there were still holes in the road from the flooding from the hurricane. I guess it was just flooding from that hurricane. And then by the time we hit it on Kings Road, they had fixed all the holes. The bricks were bare before Kings Road. The bricks were bare, but there was a hole in the middle of the road in one spot. And then by the time we hit it during the event, the road was fixed, but it was a sand pit again. So it was like
yeah.
can't win for losing. Like I would have much rather taken that one little hole in the middle of the road than and the bricks bare than the fresh sand that they dumped on top of it right before the big events. Who knows? It's a total toss up what it's going to be like this year.
Yeah, you never know, but it's an adventure, right? That's kind of the beauty of, kind of what this sport is, this activity, this hobby is, and it's kind of fun. So we made our way out and we were making our way over to the world famous Burger King. Eventually we're going to make
World
our way
famous, yeah.
world famous Burger King. Graham thought that Carlos and I like to eat, better food. And I'm like, well, better food. I mean, you just need food, right? Burger King is food. You don't need Chipotle or something. Smoothies. I know, Graham, you do a lot of work with smoothies on your rides sometimes. But the Burger King was fine. But really what was cool is like once we left Burger King, we headed over to, is it Bulo Plantation? Is that? Yeah, that was a cool thing. So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, jump in. What were your thoughts there? Let's talk about what we got to see there. Neat little experience.
The only time I've ever been through Bulo was late at night. I did a stealth camp back there, and I never even saw the ruins. I didn't really see much. I kind of just navigated some trail. We camped under the oaks, and this was, I mean, a long time ago, 12 years ago. So I was very excited when I saw that Graham had routed us through there. I really wanted to see it. So it was super exciting to see those. I mean, for lack of a better word, majestic. It was way bigger than I thought it would be. And then the trail was so much fun. Great, great single track. I had a great time. The bridge being out was a sweet surprise. I laughed a lot about that, but I mean, what can you do? It said trail closed, but we still got through.
Right.
That was my favorite part of the trip, really. I mean, riding on that inlet was pretty cool too, but we'll get to that. But that
Yeah,
was one of the
yeah,
best parts of the trip.
Yeah,
yeah.
the ruins, I guess the ruins of the old sawmill. I mean, it was labeled Buloville, 1831. So early 1800s, this place was built. It was a sugar plantation, sawmill, and it wasn't there. What didn't survive the Seminole Wars? They attempted to make peace with the Seminoles. The family, the Bulos, like had actually made peace with them, but then the federal troops came through. They actually fired on the federal troops, the Bulos did, which caused a lot of problems. And the whole thing melted down. Eventually, the whole place was burned. But that part is left, and it's like, yeah, man, it's survived hundreds of years of hurricanes and Florida weather, and it's worth seeing. It's a really cool location, right on Bulo Creek, which is beautiful. They have a paddling trail there too for people that like to paddle. It's definitely worth the trip. I'm glad we went by there. It's neat to go through that section, and I'm glad we routed it through and got to see the Bulo Trail from there. And when we headed a little further south, we got through our own ruins of the washed out bridge. Billy,
Yeah.
you
Did some
showed some
bear
skills. I
crawling.
think Carlos, I wish we had Carlos going across the bridge. He went over that washed out bridge with his bike.
I think he was eating another burger, head tipped back, eyes closed. He did it like
Yeah,
so gracefully.
he did. He was
Yeah,
like, yeah,
it was like just whatever, right? Like tightrope walker. Yeah, but yeah, that was fun. So I know like some people, and I know for me, this was one of those trips that, yeah, you gave us the GPS file, which was great. I don't even pay attention. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to follow wherever it says to go. That's just where we're going to go, which is always fun because you never know. I don't know all the nooks and crannies. I'm just kind of following where it's taking us, which is kind of cool. But I know when we kind of initially hit that little fork in the road, if you will, we kind of hung a left and that kind of was off course, and circling back around, we're like, wow, we're going to have to cross this little creek here. Okay, not a problem. But then Carlos yells, yeah, here's the bridge, and it's gone. And I'm thinking like, yeah, there's probably some boards missing. No, like the whole thing is gone. The only thing going across are like these two I-beams, I think within like 15 seconds, Carlos like, well, I'm just gonna go across.
with his
No.
bike.
Yeah,
Like
with his bike.
with these shaky beams and his bike, he just goes right across. He said, "Don't worry, I've been
Yeah,
skateboarding my whole life. I'm a pro. Don't
yeah,
worry about it."
It did get a little bouncy once on the other side, but I was
yeah.
like, oh, too late. I'm here. 3/4 of the way, I got to make it. It got a little
Committed.
bouncy. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was cool. I mean, and it makes me think, man, if that was actually open and rebuilt, man, that's a cool little trail
Yeah.
through there. I mean, it is without it, but I mean, like to people who aren't committed to crawling across bridges or going through the creek, it really was kind of a cool little cut through, which was really, really neat to get us to our destination for the first night over in Flagler Beach. And so, yeah, so we get across there, getting bikes and everything across. And I think, again, that's where, the sandals win.
Oh yeah,
So,
right.
yeah, yeah, I have to
Sandals
find
went.
some, I guess, that will do that because I was like
Nope. I
worried, well, my
jumped right in
feet
the
are going to get
river.
wet.
Straight in the river.
Yeah,
Carried your bike, even though I fat shamed your bike a little bit because it was
that's
heavy.
fine. That's
I
fine.
couldn't lift it. I think
Yeah,
this thing's too heavy.
yeah, I just have big clothes. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what
I
to
don't
tell you.
know.
So we get across there, and then from there it was kind of cool. We got to kind of wind away. I don't remember the road names. We got to wind through up and over to really the coast, and that was kind of cool to hit the sidewalk back into Flagler Beach area, which was neat. Had some great dinner. We got to meet some friends, so that was kind of cool. We got to have live entertainment there. I can't remember the place we ate at, but a neat little spot there. And then the next morning was cool, right? I mean, sunrises are always great, especially on this coast, on the East Coast here. We get some
Yeah.
beautiful sunrises. And what made this one nice is that it was sunrise, drones, and donuts, right? That was fun. All good things, all good things. So get up there and, if you're with Graham and he's brought all of his helicopters, you just don't leave the next morning. No, it's got to
Right.
be documented, which was cool. I mean, so we got to, as the sun is kind of early morning light peeking over, there's that one person out there on the paddleboard, which is this kind of really cool thing happening. Like they're having this moment, but here we are kind of, you almost feel bad, like you're invading their moment, recording and taking photos, but it was just such a cool, serene thing that was going on there. They were just kind of having this moment there. And then we cruised down and we went to Swillerby's Donuts,
Yeah.
which was great, man. They had some good food there.
I had a cronut for the first time, and it changed my life.
Exactly.
So
Explain what that
good.
is.
You had
Explain
some,
what
didn't
that
you?
is. No, I didn't.
Carlos did.
Carlos did, yeah.
I had some. I'm not a big donut guy, but that was delicious. You
Holy
saved
cow!
me from eating a whole one. I only had to have a little
You got to
piece.
log the
I was
calories
about
on
to
that
buy a
one.
I was about to buy an entire one, and then you
Wow.
were like, "Well, I'll share some of mine," which was perfect because I would have felt really guilty eating a whole one. It was very sweet.
Yeah, that was a cool little thing there. And then obviously get some coffee, we got to be able to do that. And then afterwards kind of walking outside and then there's this big mural on the wall, Flagler Beach mural. And so, we got to put our bikes up, grab the photo because I think that's what you're supposed to do, which was really cool. The I Love Flagler Beach, and it's a really cool little mural. And for those that may or may not remember, right behind Swillerby's, there's kind of a strip mall there. And this is going a couple of years back, but if you're a Stargate fan, there used to be a mural of a Stargate, and it's been painted over, so it's no longer there. But I went back there to go see if it was there, and it's not, sadly. But doesn't matter. I know where it was. It's in my memory and it was good. And so hopping on, so we didn't take the main road, out, we stuck to Carlos. You kind of unpacked a little bit as we were riding kind of the philosophy of like where the locals walk and ride. Maybe that's where you should walk and ride to kind of stay off the main roads. And so we got to take some of those back streets over and then we just started heading north and, the destination was ultimately St. Augustine, but we got to see a lot of neat little places along the way. We got to find some more single track, along the way, Malacompra, and then
Malacompra.
yep, that was a fun one. And I love that area because right next to there is Bing's Landing and this place called Captain's Barbecue. And they fire up the wood smoke, the smoker early, so you usually capture the whiffs of the barbecue or smoke. and some of the barbecue, the brisket and things like that. But along the way, I didn't know this about you, Carlos, but you're a treasure hunter and you found a treasure on the sidewalk. Do you remember what that was?
I'm always on the lookout for feathers. I mean, I have a collection of feathers and shells and odd little trinkets that I've collected over the rides at my house in the living room. It's quite the little collection, and I couldn't pass that sweet feather. It was on a mossy sidewalk, so it really popped out. So I just couldn't pass it up.
Yeah.
What kind of bird was it?
Red shoulder hawk.
Red shoulder hawk. That's a big deal. That's a
Yeah,
pretty awesome bird in the birding
yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
Good
thought, oh
feather.
no, man, like there may have been like a, some sort of mechanical or something like that. I was like, no, man, I'm grabbing feathers, grabbing a
Grapevine.
feather back here, which is cool. Yeah, you found some neat stuff. So that was cool. And so heading north there again, still kind of early in the morning. We knew we were going to have a little bit of a detour at Marineland, because there's, that we got the little ocean walk there and a lot of neat little things to see there. But there was a mission, right? We were on a mission to make it to some, I guess, abandoned homes, a little stretch of kind of the beach where old A1A used to connect. If you go to the property appraisers, if you kind of look at the map, you'll see that where it used to connect, and these were all platted for homes, and there's still homes out there. And so this was kind of a cool experience. I passed through this area many times, and I've often wondered, like, what all that was. Can you get out there? There's a beach, sure, you can get there, but does it connect? And like, can you still connect over to old A1A, which on the other side they've been rebuilding, and that, some of the things that we got to saw. And so we pulled off just on the north side of Marineland there. There's kind of a little cut through to get onto the beach, and that was kind of cool. Pulled off there, and then Graham kind of holds back. He was doing some of the drone stuff, and then Carlos and I were able to kind of go up and kind of see these homes. And so, Carlos, I'd love to hear just kind of your thoughts on like just what that was like, and kind of just your experience in seeing these abandoned homes and just being basically on the beach in the water, being inundated with tides, at high tide.
I was having a blast riding down the beach. That for a second, I totally did not notice the houses. And then I'm like, oh, these are the abandoned houses. So I'm sitting there snapping some photos. And while I'm snapping pictures, I start noticing that the waves keep coming closer and closer. And I'm like, oh my God, you're way ahead at that point. I was like, I better go or I'm going to get trapped out. So it was kind of like, oh my God, like there was a sense of urgency that
Mhm.
suddenly fell upon my sightseeing. But it was really cool. I mean, I think it's a little irresponsible that they're just leaving those houses there. Aren't they just
Yeah,
going to eventually fall in the ocean? Like, I don't know. I don't think we need to put anything else in the ocean. They should
right.
just take them down. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it was really cool. I had no idea. I mean, I've ridden up and down that segment of A1A, I don't know, 1,000 times, and I did not know those things were back there. So
Mm.
kudos to Graham for pointing that
Mhm.
out. Like, I love learning new stuff and seeing new things. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was neat. And I think, Graham, give us your perspective. I mean, you got to see it from the drone, and then you got to like really kind of close the deal because you were almost trapped, not trapped, but
Yeah.
you're going to be
Yeah.
crossing through water. Give us your experience.
Yeah. I'd known those houses have been out there forever. I mean, a couple of them were rentals. I had a friend that actually rented one of those houses. It's been more than 10 years back before they really got cut off. Uh, I think around 2011, they really started to have to shut down electricity out to those properties. And if you saw, like, there's some solar attached to some of those houses that was put up after the electricity was shut off. People like still try to live in them based on just off the grid using solar to power things. I think eventually they just like gave up, but because there's nobody in them anymore. But you can see the beating those houses have taken. It's really interesting because Matanzas Inlet's the only inlet in all of Florida that's uncontrolled. Like there's no dredging, there's no jetties. It just goes where it wants. And they should have known better than to allow these houses to be built. That inlet has been 200 yards further north and has been moving south since the 1800s when they mapped it. This inlet's not staying put. It's going to keep moving south or go wherever it wants. You can see where it just has rushed through, and the storms keep reshaping that inlet. It's really neat, but it's Mother Nature does what it wants, and they have not attempted to control that inlet, but they built those houses there anyways, and they're unlivable now. And they're eventually, like Carlos said, I mean, eventually they need to take them down. But I guess they're going to maybe. I'm not sure, but it's
Yeah, it's tricky, huh?
something. and you see the structures. You could see like in the side of the house, you could see like the toilet, like on the exposed wall. There's just a toilet there, or you could see like just shreds of the house coming out, and you could see inside the house, from the outside, and it's really quite interesting to watch Mother Nature reclaim what is this. Mother Nature's taking back the inlet, and it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what they do next. But that inlet had moved around a lot, and those houses, are going to be completely gone soon, and more of them that are still being lived in, they're going to be gone soon too. So I don't know.
And I
It's
think
really
it's
cool to see.
yeah, and I think for those who might be watching and listening, and you're watching the video. I mean, typically coastal construction, dunes are there for a reason, and they do move around, but the dunes help protect what is land side of the dunes, and these are seaward of the dunes, meaning there is no protection for these homes. That's all gone, all washed out, and it literally is only a matter of time before they are part of the ocean. And so, yeah, it does bring up question because I was looking at it, I was curious, and it appears to me, I could be wrong, and maybe somebody knows and they can correct us. But I was kind of looking again at what I could find on property appraisers and things like that. But I mean, they're still platted. Like these are lots and these are homes, and they're still showing private ownership. So they haven't been kind of condemned to the point of like, hey, the feds have said, hey, no, this is a block of land in which you cannot live on. But they don't have utilities. That's all been cut off. You got to see some had solar panels and things like that. They don't have water, wastewater, any sort of utilities going to them and electricity. But yeah, they're just freestanding structures. And if you know the area, you understand there's a couple of bridges there. But and if you don't know, there are a few bridges. And if these were to become dislodged, would it bring down a bridge? No, but it would create chaos. Because anytime, bridges are over water crossings and they're there to allow water to kind of transfer to either side of the bridge. And if you block that, that can inundate areas that may not be inundated with coastal flooding. It creates all kinds of issues. So yeah, it is quite interesting that they are there. And I didn't realize again just how close. I mean, they're pretty much at high tide, they're in the water. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
And so
that's
we
why I
hit the
barely made
area.
it. I barely
Yeah.
made it
So
back to the road. I was almost trapped out there.
yeah, we made it to the area really at just the right time to be able to cruise north. As you cruise north, there's a block of old A1A that they've just recently reconstructed, but it's probably 10 feet, 12 feet above like grade where you're standing, and so it's a lot higher. And so the only way to get to it is you got to get there before the water comes back in. And Carlos and I happen to get over there first, and we're sitting there thinking like Graham needs to hurry up.
He started texting me like, "Get it,
You need
quit
to
screwing around."
Yeah, bring your drone. It's time to go, right? It's time to get over
Yeah.
here. But you made it up and over, and then we got to see kind of this is a new, fresh tarmac section, if you will, of Old O&A where they put in kind of a seawall along the side there and really help kind of stabilize and protect. But everything south is doomed. I mean, it's all going to be taken back at some point. So from there, we headed over to Matanzas, the Matanzas Inlet, which is kind of cool. And Graham, I know there's some history that you know about this inlet.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Matanzas means massacre, by the way.
Yeah, it doesn't sound as beautiful when you say it like that.
No, it sounded great until you understand the meaning behind it. But I mean, back in the 1500s, there was a French fort up near Jacksonville. Spanish had a fort down near St. Augustine, which is Fort Matanzas now. And the French decided to launch a fleet and go after the Spanish fleet. But they launched this attack in the middle of or hitting a tropical storm. All the ships were lost, but 2 out of 12 ships. And the 2 different ships washed ashore in different places. So they started making their way north. They washed up around Norman Beach, I guess. And as they got to Matanzas Inlet, the Spanish were there waiting for them. They didn't have as many men as the French did, but they kind of tricked them into thinking there were. And these guys have been washed up. They got no food. So they talked them into surrendering and kind of tricked them into surrendering and brought them over the inlet in boats, 10 at a time, and murdered like all of them, except the ones that said they were Catholic. So it was, so most of them were, and so this whole shipload of men, most of them died right there at the inlet. And then a couple days later, the next round of men came, and the same thing happened. So over 200 men were massacred there on the beach by this Spanish general, and so it's forever been known as Matanzas Inlet, the River of Blood. and that fort is there, and really cool fort. You know, it's kind of like the ruins from Bulo. It's similar. It's a hard coquina shell that I guess a decent foundation. It's still standing. It's worth taking a trip over. You have to go over by boat, but checking out Fort Matanzas is a nice little trip. It's a state park. It's a nominal fee. You can jump on the boat. It's a fun little day trip thing to do. But it's a beautiful area, and it's interesting that inlet when that massacre happened was actually much further north, based on the old maps. So you can see like just the movement of the area and how the reshaping of the coastline's been happening. But because that fort is further down the road, much further down the road from where the inlet is because of that, because the inlet keeps moving around.
Yeah, no, and just on the opposite side, on the Atlantic side, my wife and I, we did our redid our vows at our 20th. And so we got to do it over there, and it was like a week before the hurricane came and really messed everything up. And so it's kind of, now I'm thinking, yeah, we pretty much redid our vows at, the place of the massacre, which is just amazing, right? I haven't told her that yet. So
No, it's,
that's cool. So yeah, so we're cruising through there, and then Carlos, man, we got to go have our second coffee, which is great. We got to head up into St. Augustine Beach, and we had our first coffee down in Flagler Beach, but now we're heading up to St. Augustine. It's like, hey, I think it's coffee time. And so then we got to head over to the Kookaburra, which was kind of cool. We got to have some coffee, chill out for a while. Carlos didn't like the person out there on his phone next to his bike, so he went and moved his bike. But, I think other than that, it was good.
it's staking out our bikes.
Yeah, staking out the
It was
bikes.
delicious. That second cup was fantastic.
Yeah.
Kookaburra, was it called Kookaburra?
Yeah, Kookaburra. Yep, the Kook.
That place is great.
Never been there before. That place is awesome. Highly recommended. Great pastries too. Gluten-free pastries that were delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the way to do these summer trips. If you stop often, don't do a big ride. Keep the stops like every couple hours, cool off. I loved the pace of this trip. It was really relaxed. We took our time, got to look at all the different sites. Sometimes these big bikepacking trips, you're trying to knock out 70, 80 miles a day. We didn't have to do that. And so it really was a nice, relaxing trip where we could kind of screw around and see these different things and enjoy the experiences of these areas and stop at coffee shops. Just going to ride by Kookaburra.
Yeah, it was cool, and I enjoyed that. And getting into St. Augustine's home for me, so I know a little bit more of the nooks and crannies, which was fun for me because it felt like, once we hit really Matanzas, it felt like, okay, well, I'm basically home. But so we got to cruise over, and then we make our way over to the lighthouse, right? The world famous St. Augustine lighthouse, which was cool.
It is cool.
That's a good little
I've
spot.
climbed up to the top with my kids.
Yeah. Next time you got to take your bike though.
And no, it's too narrow.
Yeah, it's too narrow.
Not your bike. Your bike's not going up. It's too heavy.
Yeah, it's too heavy. Yeah, there you go. Fat shaming my bike again.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to do that, and then we head over. Well, before we get to the Bridge Alliance, I know that we had this random encounter, right? So Karlos knows everyone everywhere. So we're like coming around the corner, and this is like, and it's like Karlos sees somebody he knows, which was kind of cool. Karlos, you just know people.
Yeah, they live right there in that community. They're really cool. The Quins, Ryan Gator, if you know him, and Kimberly, really good people. Salt of the earth. It's great. That's just one of the gifts of cycling. All these cool people you get to meet.
Yeah, she was talking, I guess, that they were getting a mural painted, right? On that little wall in front of their home. So we got to chit chat for a few minutes.
No, but you understand, like, we're just riding through a random neighborhood.
Yeah.
We weren't even on route, actually. I was like, let's just stay back here in this neighborhood. And somebody starts yelling Carlos's name. He's like, the mayor of Florida. Like, what's going on here?
What's happening?
Can't go anywhere with this guy. He's so famous.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so, okay, we chit chatted for a few minutes. And then, the point is we're heading over to St. Augustine. We're like, hey, let's go check out, the fort. And then we kind of make our way over. And ultimately, we wanted to get over to Sprockets, one of the bike shops here. Got some friends there, Carlos, people there. Graham, you do too. And so head over to one of the local bike shops. And so heading over the Bridge Alliance, which is always, I don't know if you want to call it a bridge. I mean, it's a bridge, but it's not like a huge climb. I mean, it's just, you're just up and over. But it's just really cool to kind of come over that bridge and like you're in the old city, and really one street over, you've got cobblestones. You've got like this old, ancient, if you like to say ancient, but old city for American standards. And it's just really cool seeing the fort, seeing all that stuff there. And so I know I really enjoyed that. I've seen it a lot. I mean, I live here, but I mean, for you guys, I mean, you get to see it a couple times a year, but it was just cool to be able to do that all together. And again, not having an agenda and just kind of enjoying the moment. And then we did, I think it's a St. Augustine no-no, and I apologize for this, but like, I know like, hey, we need to get over to one of these little cut throughs. And so we went down St. George Street on two wheels, right? Like
Yeah,
we didn't
just for a
mean to,
second, just for a
just
second,
didn't mean to.
just a little bit. We got out of there.
And yeah, so we had cut through where Flagler College is, which is really cool. It's a beautiful college, and like all of downtown is just a really neat little area to see by bike if you can. And then up and over to our friends at Sprockets, which was cool because I mean, by at that point you're only a couple of miles from the finish. Really, I mean, it was just a shorter day. And I know for you guys, it was a time to jump into the pool and kind of cool off as well. So we got to see our friends at Sprockets. We got to go in there, connect. I know, Graham, you got to have some drone time, but it was a well-timed trip for me.
Yeah.
Well-timed,
Yes.
as I had
Very well.
an issue with the tire. So then I had to get
I
picked up.
actually heard your tire a little bit before that, and I'm like, "What is that sound?" I could
I
hear it
know.
thumping. I was not sure what that was, and then when you told me that we call it a tumor in the business, so
Yeah.
you had a
Yeah.
tumor, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
what that sound was." That is so
Yeah.
random for that to
We had,
happen.
when we stopped at Sprockets, I mean, I heard it and I felt, I was like, okay, I don't know how long I'm going to have because you never know. And so when I got to Sprockets, I saw like it was a bubble between the plies of rubber, between the materials. I was like, well, I've only got a couple miles from the house. I should be fine. And we're inside talking. I heard it just pop. And I was like, that was my tire. It's like, sure enough, I guess with heat and everything else, it kind of popped. But luckily I was there. So it was like, hey, cool. Time to get, and the new tires are great, Carlos. I mean, I got them on there. So I'm like, man, it's like a monster truck now. So, but anyway, yeah, older tires are, I guess that's what
Ready
happens,
for
Phil.
Tally Tango is what it is.
Sounds like it. I think
Yeah,
so.
you
This
are.
is going to be a
Let's
fun
go.
little, yeah, this is going to be fun.
I'll be
Sand
there.
surfing. Big people like me need a wider tire. And I think this is the one. This is going to help me on the sand.
Bigger is better.
Bigger is better. So eventually, kind of got our time completed there, which by the way, if you are in St. Augustine, Carlos, you're going to be back doing a bike packing clinic, right? A little talk. Is that in August?
Yeah, August 15th, I'll be at Sprockets. August 16th, I'll be at the Honeypot Collective with ZenCog doing a 101 class there. The whole gimmick of the 101 bikepacking classes is that I ride to them. I don't drive, so
Nice.
it's gonna be fun. And then
Yeah.
we've got a couple more people interested in having me come talk, but they're gonna have to wait till September because I'm already booked up for August. Because we've got the Charles Spring ride August 23rd. So
Right. That's a must. Let's get in the springs. That is fun. Guaranteed in the springs.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
Two
people,
routes this year.
they need to register for that, right? They want to come see and kind of listen and learn. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for the Sprockets, it's
Yeah.
totally free.
Okay.
But yeah, they just head over either to my website and at the bottom they'll find the links in the calendar, or they can just go to Eventbrite and type in, Single Track Samurai Bikepacking 101 and it should come up in the Google machine.
Okay. And if it, because I'm local, I'm planning to go to it. And so are we encouraged to bring our rigs? I mean, just because I know there's going to be a whole host of people there, right? I mean, some people who maybe aren't into bike packing yet. I mean, what
Yeah,
are your thoughts there?
in an effort to make it kind of number one, make it more fun for both experienced folks and for new people. It's always fun to have people there who are local who want to pack up their bike and bring it so that people can see the way different folks pack their bikes. Because, there's various ways to pack a bike. And that's kind of like, just like with everything in cycling, it's part of bike packing is figuring out what works for you. And everybody kind of packs their bike a little bit different. I pack my bike a little bit different depending on where I'm going, what the time of the year it is, what my goals are. If I'm racing, I'm going to pack my bike completely different versus if I'm touring in Florida or versus if I'm touring like out west. Even my own personal packing style varies depending on where I'm going and what my goals are for the trip. So
Right.
it's always good to have extra bikes there with bags on them. I would love, even though it's free, I would love for people to register so that way I know there's going to be someone there to talk because,
Right.
I don't want to show up and it's just me and four people. I want there to be a good group of folks for me to
Right.
come talk to.
Yeah. And I would say too, because, Carlos, your boss is so gracious to let you do these things, by the way. But I would say that, help my man out. He brings a lot of wisdom and just really a wealth of knowledge to the bikepacking community. And so coffee tips, things like that. I mean, it really kind of helps support really not just Carlos, but really the broader thing that's happening in Florida. as far as getting a lot of these trails connected. I mean, someone's got to go out and blaze the trails, and Carlos is one of those people. Along Graham, there's a lot of these people that are doing this, and so I would just encourage you, if you're sitting back and enjoying it, man, just be a contributor. I always say there's a time that we're in families and we're not responsible for dishes and taking out the trash, but then like it comes that time where we all share the load a little bit. And I know that you guys do a lot of work for the biking community. So I appreciate all the work that you guys do and have no problem supporting that work as well. One thing I do want to ask, though, Carlos, while we're thinking about, because I know like St. Augustine, again, I love the city, but it's on a couple of your rides. I mean, this area, I mean, obviously Kings Road is just a little bit south of us, but then you also have, don't you have at least one ride that starts from the fort, sea to river or river to sea when,
The River to Sea Loop doesn't start in St. Augustine, but we go
okay,
through St. Augustine.
okay,
And this year, the River to Sea Loop is it's going to start on Halloween. Usually it falls on Veterans Day weekend, but Veterans Day falls in the middle of the week this year. So I kind of had to figure out, do I want to go before or I want to go after? So this year we're doing the River to Sea Loop and we're starting on Halloween. And because it's Halloween, I want to do something a little different. We're going backwards. And because of this
nice.
reason, Beach Blanket Bike Pack that we just did, I want to see if I can take everybody across that inlet. I want every
Ooh,
other people to see
Yeah. Let's
those
go.
abandoned
Spooky.
that
houses.
is
So
cool.
it's going to be all about timing. I think we said high tide was at 3:45, and we were able to make it around midday the next day. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know if I can do that math, but I'm going to try to see if we can nail it again. It's
yeah,
it's it's going to be touch or go. But yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about doing something a little different. We got some new camps this year. I already knew a bunch of dirt on A1A that we didn't do on our trip, and I'm going to mix some of that with what Graham showed me to kind of just add a little more fun to it all. So yeah, I'm excited about this year's bike pack of the River to Sea Loop, and then every other year the Spanish coast to coast route. It starts at Fort de Soto and ends at Castillo de San Marcos. Last year it started it at the Castillo, so this year it's going to end at the Castillo, and that's another route that kind of goes through there. So yeah, a couple of
yeah,
my routes do go through St. Augustine because it's one of my favorite cities in the state. I mean, if you go to school in Florida, they take you there to go visit the oldest school
hmm,
in the United States. I mean, it's part of my childhood. So
yeah,
obviously, I have a deep love for St. Augustine, no short of love for it. And to get to experience it on a regular basis, it's pretty much tradition for me. I go
yeah.
there at least 5 or 6 times a year, and almost every time I go, it's by bike. So
That's so cool. I love that idea of incorporating, not just navigating where you're going, but also coordinating with the tide schedule to make sure that works. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. That's a nice little twist on what's going to happen. Well, guys, I would love just to give hear any closing thoughts. I know this was just kind of a fun little trip we did last minute, throw it together. Let's just, go have some fun and explore some areas. But yeah, any last minute thoughts or wisdom you want to talk about or pass on?
Roosters.
The
The
roosters.
roosters. How many roosters, Billy? How many roosters is this trip?
Well, I think, in my opinion, there was really only one rooster, and it was a human rooster. And you're gonna
Oh
have to
yeah.
go watch that on the YouTube video that Graham posted on this trip. And I'll give you a hint: it's gonna be on Old Brick Road. And we saw wildlife, but it just wasn't the wildlife that you expected. So there was
Oh man.
I'm gonna give it
Yeah,
a
no.
half star.
Well, I'll tell you, bike packing doesn't have to be a big deal. It can be a short one night trip like we did. I think we covered 110 miles in 2 days. We had, I think it felt like 3 days worth of adventure packed in basically 24 hours. We left at like a little after 9 on a Friday. No, it was a Monday. It was Memorial Day. We left for Memorial Day and we're back by Tuesday by noon. I mean, and we did so much. It's really cool. So bikepacking can just be a short little adventure with friends. It doesn't have to be this big overplanned thing. I mean, I will overplan everything, and I did overplan this, but we stopped everywhere and did everything. And that's all you got to do. Just pick a spot, go do something fun. It's just something about getting on your bike, leaving your car behind, unplugging. It feels like the whole world is left behind. It is a special and unique experience. I'm lucky to know you guys and lucky to know this community. It's been a life changing for me to have this part of my life as busy dad and husband to be able to get on my bike and just go escape for a day or two. And thankfully, my wife lets me now and then go do this with
Yeah.
and you guys are great people to be around. The spirit both you guys carry is similar to anybody I've met in bike packing. It's very positive. It's very uplifting. And that's why we're here to enjoy. Like Carlos always says, tomorrow's never guaranteed, and it's kind of cliche, but it's very true. And he's right. It's important to remember like these experiences. These are important. Like, don't miss it.
That's a good word. That's a good word. Carlos, what about you, man? What closing thoughts, any lasting thoughts that you might have?
Bicycle touring, bike packing, experiencing the world via bicycle, experiencing the world via human power is perhaps one of the biggest blessings I've ever had in my life. Mainly because it's just an opportunity to experience the world and be very in the moment. Like it's hard to not be present when you have to pay attention to every little thing around you. And I guess that's what I cherish it most. Like they as we continue to do more laps around the planet, I have a saying that I always lean back on. Like, the years go by fast, but the days go by slow. And bikepacking really makes the day go by slow, right? So before you know it, it's going to be December. But man, each little opportunity I get to go out there and kind of see the world by bike makes each year feel a little longer. I don't know else to explain it. It's like,
Yeah.
the moments are memorable, but the years go by fast regardless, right? But it's just really a great way to add a lot of color to your days and just add a lot of life to your days. People can hear more about it when I go talk at Sprockets on August 15th.
Yes,
That's
Yeah.
right.
don't miss it.
Come join us if you are local. And if you're not, just drive on down or ride your bike on down. And if not, join them in Jacksonville the next day. And I know for me, last closing thought is that, I think with bike packing, it's just like part of the adventure is that you're never, the plan always changes a little bit. I think we initially had this grand idea of camping out. We were trying to camp out
Yeah.
on the beach. There was a spot, storms rolling in, and you guys had just done, I don't know what ride it was, but it was a gravel ride. It was pretty hot. And so, I think it was just, hey, let's just find another place. And it was kind of a good call because there were storms and, nothing wrong with that. There's no shame. And, credit card bike packing, I think is what, you guys have said before. And I think that's okay too, which was good. We kind of lightened up the load. And so to me, I think, you don't have to have it all figured out. And my encouragement to anyone listening and watching and thinking, man, could I ever do something like that? Yeah, you can. Just go into it with a little bit of an open mind, knowing that the plan may change. And as Carlos says, enjoy the moment. And as I think I would agree, is that the slower you go, the more that you see. And I think bikepacking is a great way to see that. And man, just find some buddies, find some people, reach out to your local bike shop. There's people that want to do this stuff. Get connected with some of the routes that we're doing here in Florida, single track. Check out the website and get signed up for some of those events. And sure enough, if you do that, we'll probably run into you at some point, and it'll be great because your friend circle is going to expand a little bit. But we're just grateful to be able to kind of talk through this experience that we got to do and now get to share with you, and hopefully inspire you to sign up and do some of these events and go live a little, and you won't regret it. So again, Carlos, Graham, thanks so much for being here, and man, we look forward to doing another trip sometime soon.
Thanks, Billy.